Um, Talking to employers about invisible disabilities. When you're okay with explaining your struggles but unsure what the most appropriate time to bring it up is that won't jeopardize an interview or successful employment. And what is the limit before being perceived as oversharing when you're totally transparent about those issues and your history?
It is such a great question. And I think what kind of comes up for me is, I guess, a few points. The first thing that I'll come to is actually the last part of this question is, what's oversharing and how does that kind of work? When we think oversharing, I first think about boundaries, and boundaries are there in order to keep ourselves and other people safe. So what we can do in the early stages of a process before you get to know someone, we can talk more in general terms or perhaps a little bit more surface level. So things like, I'm trying to think of an example that's not too specific. It might be through asking questions about how an organization supports their team members who experience stress and anxiety, or what kind of mental health support do you provide your team. What you're doing there is you're, in essence, suggesting that there's something going on for you, though at the same time, you're also interviewing the organization to see if they're the right place for you. Because if you know this about yourself, that it's something that you require extra support for, it's almost unhelpful to go into an organization that doesn't really make space for that. So in terms of oversharing, I would be mindful of the level of specifics that we go into, unless they are, I guess, impactful on the actual job description, right? So, I'm thinking in like a design studio, perhaps you have a degenerative eye condition. So that might be something that, you do need to talk about. But again, that's very, very industry specific, and it's also very specific to your situations. So yeah, I guess the way that I would handle it in an early interview kind of space is asking questions to elicit the information for yourself to figure out whether or not this is the right place for you.
How about you, Daz? Like, what happens if this comes up in an early conversation with an employee?
That is such an emotional topic for people, and I think we need to recognize that it's very difficult for them in the first place to talk about it. I think empathy there is everything, but again, I think what Tara was just saying is pretty much right on the money, right? So if this is something that you personally struggle with, or you've got something that that is not perceived as normal, as a normal functioning human being, you may want to consider how you interview that employer as well from the get-go, and make sure that it is an environment where you'll be where you can actually flourish and grow, so that you will be accepted for what you are. So that's kind of, I think I would say that to anyone with any employer, really. You don't want to work in a company where you don't flourish in the first place. But if that is another sort of added level of complexity, I think you will either naturally find an employer that you kind of feel comfortable with sharing that and say, hey, look, that's something that's not 100% right. How do you feel about it? Or if you get red sort of alarm bells right away that you go, oh, it's probably going to be difficult here in this place for me to sort of share this, it's probably a good sign then, therefore, to potentially consider another workplace, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, Andy, just to kind of pop in, because something that Jasmine just mentioned really rang true to me. And I think, if there's a situation where you notice that for yourself, you tend to overshare quite a lot, or you're told by people that you give details that maybe aren't necessarily required, then that's also a really great moment to go and seek out some professional therapy. Because when we don't have our own boundaries, I guess, sort of set for ourselves, then that tends to show up in oversharing, in, kind of becoming, feeling like you've sort of vomited all of the words, and then you walk out of the situation going, oh shit, what did I do? What did I say? I said too much. Oh my God. That doesn't have to be that way. That can be something that therapy can really, really help with. So I just wanted to kind of tack that on at the end. Because people sometimes don't know what therapy is actually for, and it can be for those sorts of things too.